are seeing, according to Facebook, flat ad sales for the first 3 weeks of April. But the question is, could it get worse? And the real concern is about Q2, not Q1. What's your overall take?
Yeah, I think those are really excellent points. And I 100% agree. First of all, Q1 was a better quarter than most people expected. I do have to remember to say, though, that January and February were pretty much normal months. So we really only had March as being the month where there was a lot of concern and downturn. So for those who were saying that, Q1 was potentially going to be negative, I don't think we ever thought that in our particular models. But, you're right. Looking at Q2, there's a couple of things that really stood out for me. And I want to push back on the idea that the fact that Facebook has been flat for the early part of April is necessarily a good sign. If you compare that to what Snap reported last week, Snap actually also, which is very unusual for these companies, by the way, Snap gave an estimate that year-over-year revenue in the first couple of weeks of April actually grew 15% through April 19th, whereas Facebook said it was flat in the first 3 weeks. So if you compare those two companies' performance, then you have to wonder, well, what's going on here? It makes me think maybe Facebook's performance is actually worse than people think. And if there's stability in terms of flatness, that's not necessarily as good as having at least some revenue growth year over year in the beginning of the quarter. So that's something I'm going to want to pay attention to. I don't know if we're going to see something.
Yeah. The question then is, how bad does it get? And what's your sense? What's your sense of how bad this could get based on signs you're seeing in other places?
Yeah, and unfortunately, no one has a full crystal ball on that. I mean, I think one of the big issues is that businesses are reopening at vastly different rates around the world. So you have some countries where business is starting to reopen. There are other countries and even regions within those countries, like in the United States, where businesses are very much locked down. So any recovery that's going to happen at Facebook is going to be incredibly slow. It's got to be. With all of this, all these varying opening rates going on, I mean, you don't know what businesses are going to be open, to what extent, in which markets. There's a lot of change and challenge ahead, I believe, for Facebook. And that reflects itself in a lot of different types of businesses. I mean, we haven't talked about Facebook's exposure to small business. Small businesses are hurting horribly around the world. And Facebook has always touted the fact that they have 8 million advertisers, and that's obviously a very large percentage of those are small businesses. But I think a lot of that ad revenue could be in jeopardy because these businesses are trying to stay afloat, let alone actually spending more on marketing. So that's a concern that I think we still haven't seen fully play out, and we'll also be paying a lot of attention to that as well.